everyone. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. So yes, my name is László Ágoston and I'm coming from Meet. Meet is a very relatively new one-year-old strategic design agency. We are segmenting design thinking to various companies and brands and organizations, and we are working on making services and products more lovable, more effective, efficient, and better. And what I brought you today is a few very interesting thoughts about how to step forward on the way of segmenting if we are talking about banking. And I would start from the point that people, customers, are looking for values in connection with all kinds of services they are using. And values in two meanings. Values means functional values, so they are looking for services and tools and products that can help them to live a better life in their everyday life. But they are also looking for values that they can identify with, they can live together with, and that they can proud to be in partnership with those service providers that they would like to be. So everyone is looking for their own way of life and their own way of banking. And if banks not reacting to this customer need, so I think this is a huge challenge in front of the global banking sector. So I brought you two approaches, and I would like you to understand it by the end of this presentation. When we talk about segmentation, then it's really important then we can only segment on a good way if we really and deeply understand our customers. If we can read them, if we can feel them, not only know their social and demographic background, how old are they, what do they do for a living, what's their gender, and so on. These are not important, because if we are following these kind of background information, we will feel that everyone is the same and there are overlappings, and it drives us nowhere. But if we are start from the mindset, from the attitudes, then we can create different worlds, different mindsets, different fears, different motivations, expectations, and needs. And if we can react on them on a segmented way, we can be much more relevant and be much better. And Maya is one thing that can help us on that way. Maya is an acronym standing for Most Advanced Yet Acceptable. So this is coming from the education, and it's coming from the last century. So it's quite an old phrase, but it's not well known enough. And it means that you need to somehow socialize a service or a new product or an innovation to the present level of the customers. So it's coming from education, and it's fundamentally related to how human beings, people, can learn new skills, can accept new information and integrate new information and new behavior into their everyday life. And the origin of Maya is Raymond Loewy, a guy who lived in the last century but born in the previous one. And he said that design for the future, but balance it with your users' present. And maybe I hope it's obvious for many of you, especially when we are talking about design, but it's really important to keep this in mind when we are designing services or products for real human customers. Just a few examples, a failure and a successful one from the same company, Apple. The first one is the Newton tablet, which came out of the blue without the previous version. It was the first one, and it was quite complex for the users, so it was a failure. There was no stairs to it from user perspectives. They just throw it among the users, and they couldn't accept it. And the next example on the right side is the iPod evolution, the evolution of iPod as a product. And it took step by step, it took function by function. So the development was really following this Maya, most advanced yet acceptable design principle. So Maya is one thing, and another thing is the persona thinking, and I really hope that you are familiar with it. What is a persona? A persona is a personalized customer type that we can relate to. These customer types have different motivations, expectations, fears, and everything I mentioned earlier. And if we know them, it helps us to differentiate our service and our communication towards them and come up with new services that can be more relevant to them. So knowing our audience helps us develop more relevant solutions, much more relevant solutions. Okay, but how? The answer for the how question is a project that we initiated 2 months ago, and we started it especially for this conference, so we brought this research and the results of it to you. And basically, we put together personal thinking and Moya thinking in banking. So we initiated a project together with our LSD students. LSD is Learn Service Design. It's a 3-month-long service design education program of meetl. And we involved the actual batch, the actual participants of LSD, and we did this project together. So we after the kickoff, we looked around and looked for relevant research papers and studies saying something about Moya in banking and the customer base of the region and of Hungarian banking customers. Then we planned the research, and then we went out from the building and met customers, people, and we talked a lot with them, and then we synthesized all the results. In the second phase, when we did this desktop research, we looked around and we found an Ernst & Young study which was trying to apply a 2x2 coordinate system to illustrate that how banking customers are mature from financial and digital aspects. And they said that, okay, there are digital stars, pros, traditionalists, and financial stars. We took this as a hypothetical basis, but we went beyond it, because if we have a look at this coordinate system, can we really understand our customers? Can we really feel that how do pros behave or how do traditionalists behave? I think we cannot. So that's why we planned to talk and meet at least 10 subjects from each of these segments. So we went out and we talked to people, and then we summed up in a written form, summed up all the information we gathered and all the insights, and we tagged them on the online Inside Bank platform of meetl, and then we started to synthesize it. And we came up with personas. Where are these personas? I will show it to you, but these personas are living among us. They are sitting here in this room and walking around us outside of this building, because these are really living personas. I hope you will feel them familiar, or some parts of them will be familiar for you. The first one is the dependent. The dependent, the people, they are so a quote from those people: I need somebody who tells me, look, invest your money here or there. This could be a bank clerk or even you, I don't care, as long as someone tells me what to do. So these are the people who are really sitting on the passenger seat. They want to control their life, but they have no chance because they don't have the knowledge and they don't have the digital maturity to do that. So they are always asking other people to give answers for their actual questions. And what they need, if we are talking about finance and banking services, they need orientation, they need guidance. They want to be the diligent type of banking customer, but they're very far away from being that. The next persona is the diligent, which is a controller type of banking customer. He or she wants to control everything. It says that we plan our yearly budget in an Excel sheet to know where we are headed. It's not the money I cling to, it's security. So money, banking, and wealth is security for them. And they are keeping order around them, and they want to keep it. And if we are talking about an ideal bank or a financial service, when we are thinking about the diligent type, it's somebody who can help them to become better and better in keeping things in order. And maybe a bit of an award will be also good for them. So saying that, wow, that's the best Excel sheet I have ever seen for your do-it-yourself personal private cash flow issues. And the next one, the third one, is the hedonist. The hedonist says that money means spending money. I have 300,000 Hungarian forints debit on my account for years now, but it only costs a few thousand per month. The hedonist enjoys the present life, and he wants to enjoy the present life. He is the type, or she is the type, who has a gap between the actual financial opportunities, how much money they have, and the lifestyle they desire. And they have an extra capability, a special power. They can switch mentally, and they can act as if they had money, enough money to live the lifestyle that they can live. So they do that. And if we are talking about an ideal bank for the hedonist type, we could imagine a very exclusive, a VIP, a premium banking service with some kind of guidance, but this guidance cannot be against their against their independent characteristics. So maybe a Maya Siri from a bank would be an ideal innovation for them. The next one is the lofty, which is a quite arrogant type. But if we read this type right, then we can understand this arrogance. This type says that cash is the tool for controlling your own finances. We should never leave that behind. What would you do if a higher power blocked your credit card? So this type, this persona, is preparing for an apocalypse. This type is preparing for an alternative world when everything which is virtual and digital will be gone, and there will be the gold here and cash, and maybe petrol in the tank. So if you remember the Mad Max guy who was the king in the Mad Max film, he is that type, or she is that type. And if we are thinking about an ideal bank or a financial service from their perspectives, then we can imagine a fintech butler. So again, a guidance who is orienting them in the world of fintech. Maybe they can find a relation, a connection with fintech one day, but it's not obvious. And maybe one more innovation or service would be good for them, which is a kind of a guarantee or an emergency plan. So you can keep your money here in our bank in virtual, I don't know, in cryptocurrency, but if there will anything happen, you can immediately change it to gold or cash or anything. So this kind of contingency plan or emergency plan can take the attention of the lofty. The next one is the pro. The pro, this persona is a chillful guru. He or she is digitally very mature and also from financial aspects. The quote is, fortunately, there is hardly any area of my life that is not digital. My friends often ask me for advice when they get stuck digitally. So they are very chill because they have the world in their pocket through their smartphone. They can use it. They can use Google. And if they don't know anything, then they can look it up. So they have a basic security when talking about financial questions or any kind of questions. If a financial institution or a service provider would like to get closer to this persona, then it would be through a pro club or a pro platform when pros could interact with each other. And the next one, it's not the last one, but the one before the last, the anxious. The anxious says that every morning I write down my spendings like a financial confession. I haven't done this for weeks, which is a constant frustration. I know that now is the time to prepare for the future. So this is the type who has, again, the same gap between the actual financial opportunities and the lifestyle that he or she is desired to live, but he or she cannot make this mental switch like the hedonist. So they cannot live like they wanted. They are investing in being more diligent, more precise, write down everything, and it causes constant frustration in them and in their thinking. If we think about how could we help them as a financial service provider, all kind of financial analytics support, report, app that can show you how did you do your spendings last week or last month would be a good direction, or any kind of digital piggy bank would be a good direction for him or her. And the last one is the criticist, who is also a system criticist like the Lofty was, but he or she is a constructive reformer type. So they are also criticizing the system. They don't buy the bullshit. They are saying talking about discounts is just bullshit. They are going to take your money away, it's obvious. These are just empty words, parts of the corporate bullshit. I'm not buying this. So they see through communication, they see through promises and everything, and they are looking for credible actions and credible words coming from a bank or any kind of brand. And they are typically a moral or artistic soul. And if there was a greater coin existing, he or she was really a good fan of it. So Bitcoin, no, because it's bullshit and it's too virtual for me, but a greater coin, any kind of transparency or a cool and innovative philanthropy is their word or is in harmony with their values. So what to do with these personas? And it's really important to see that really there are different words behind these personas with different values, different expectations, fears, and everything. So when we talk to them, we really focused on their potential Maya level, the points, the Maya points, most advanced yet acceptable services or service elements. And we have found a lot. These are only 13 examples coming from this inside bank, and I think these are really I just realized this monitor here, so I don't have to look there. So, for example, we found for many of them, you can imagine which persona would like this innovation or feature or function. The double check, the expert validation before or after filling in the transaction form. So I filled it. So yeah, okay, I can show it through the next slide. So the dependent persona who is really afraid of making a mistake or making something wrong, and that's one reason why he or she is always going to others for asking advices and help. They would really like this double-check expert validation. So somebody who would help them, who would just check the transaction form and says, okay, it's without mistake, you can send it. Or undo the transactions. So like in the Gmail or in many other email client, you can, within a few seconds, you can undo your email sending out. That would be a perfect solution in banking services for them as well. Or video banking, which would be a huge step forward in terms of digital, but it would keep something from the personal relation that they want to have with their bank rep or financial assistance. Yeah, and I don't go through all of them because I don't have time. But for example, separate accounts, spending analytics, do-it-yourself sheet gallery, or an award for the diligent type would be the Maya service level or the Maya service element. And the Revolut intro, for example, for the hedonist type is not only an introduction of Revolut, one service, but a guidance in all kinds of fintech or financial in innovations. You could say that why would do a bank such things like this to introduce the competitors or those services which would win their clients, but from a client perspective, it would be a really useful service to guide there. Okay, what if? How could the banking sector react on this very radical and very pragmatic in the same time segmentation and talking, and not only talking, but providing this service, the banking service, on a segmented way. It's really important again, so I would emphasize this again, that segmentation is not segmenting communication. It's something, but it's almost nothing compared to the thing when you segment your service itself. The entire service ecosystem you can segment into different personas. So what if the banking sector would react to this customer need? We think, or I think, it would be the modular way of banking, and it would really similar to the way how we ask for a menu for a food in, for example, the Pad Thai wok bar. So first we select our base, then select a topping, and then we add some sauces. So it would be a basic service for all, which really is the basic, and then persona by persona, customers could find, would select different modules of a service provider, the green module, the consciousness module, the Siri support module, the charity module, or even the platform customization module. So it would be really interesting, and from the same bank, many customers could really get a totally different service on a totally different way with different channel communication and channel interaction as well. And one more thing, I think the entire banking system is looking forward to this huge challenge, how to segment the service and how to communicate in an understandable way towards all, but on a segmented way. And you don't have to call it that way, you know, service design, design thinking. You can call it anything, but there needs to be someone who thinks like that and acts like that and help to proceed in that direction. It can be a segment marketing expert as well as a business analyst or a business owner of a bank or a part of a bank, but there has to be someone. And I don't know, maybe you know who will be doing it in your organization. I hope you will find it. Thank you, and go Design Summit.